Hello, everybody. This is Anna and Brian from Amata World podcast, and today we have our next guests for AI episode, Ilya and Alesja, who are the founders of The Safest Way. Hi both. How are you?
Hi. Hi,
Hi Anna,
nice.
hi Brian.
Hi, Brian. Hi, guys. Thank you so much for inviting us. It's been long coming, and we finally managed to make it at 7:30 in the morning.
Yeah. We were playing it for quite a while, but I'm so glad that you're finally here. And maybe can you give a quick introduction to yourself and your background so our listeners know where you're coming from?
Sure. I'll give a start and then hand it over to Ilya. So my name is Alesja. I'm a co-founder of Safest Way. I've been building alongside Safest Way for 2 years now. My background is in a computer science, but actually I'm not a developer myself. I'm more in a product design and a project management. So I started Safest Way about 2 years ago, and I'm very lucky to meet Ilya to join me as a CTO. And I'm gonna hand it over to him now to give an intro.
So Ilya, I've been with Safest Way for a year. My background, so with my first training, I'm a computer scientist and artist as well. And then I shifted towards geospatial, and my work has been sort of combining these two things, like computer science and geography. A lot of it was. So I'm currently also a PhD student at UCL, where I try to marry language models with geospatial. So joined Safest Way about last October, I believe. Yeah,
Yeah, actually,
it's been a
almost exactly.
journey.
So. And we met at Geovation, where Anna is now recording this episode.
Yeah.
And yeah, so we also like to ask our sort of guests, like, how did you sort of begin this journey, and what kind of inspired you to, I guess, move into creating The Safest Way? What was your, I guess, the main inspiration for it?
Yeah, of course. So it was about 2 years ago. It was the final show of the great band called Panic at the Disco at O2. Me and my friend went there by actually accident. I was not supposed to even be there because my friend was supposed to go with her sister, but her sister got sick, so she invited me, and that was a very great coincidence. So we parked our car about half an hour walk from the O2 Arena, and we used either Google Play or Google Maps or Apple Maps. Don't remember exactly which one of those we used to walk to the actual venue. And the path was extremely creepy. There was absolutely no lighting, and even though we were together, we still felt very and not easy. And my friend was like, "Well, why don't you build something?" Because I was saying, I don't understand, why can't the mapping system just tell me which path is brighter? Because street lighting is there, it's a public data, it's not like something you need to spend tremendous amount of time looking for. It's available at ease. Why can't just normal navigator tell me this path has more street light, and this doesn't take this one? So she said, well, why don't you build it? And I was like, that's a good joke. And then it wasn't a joke. So I started looking into it, and I realized that there was no exact solution of this nature available, not in even UK, or to be honest, not anywhere else. And from there, it was like a journey of discovering how does one get data, how does one get a little bit of funding, how does one go around building something, not being able to really develop myself. So I was very lucky to meet Ilya a year in my journey, and now we have a product that is already working. So basically, what Safest Way is doing, we are ingesting data on street lighting, CCTV surveillance, and crime to calculate the safest scores for each route. So when you are planning your journey, like you would do with any normal navigator, you actually have full information on which path we know is the best for you to take, where there is more lighting, where there is less recent crime, when there is more surveillance, and you can make informed choice basically on the data we provide you, and then hopefully feel a bit safer and more confident when you walk. So that's in a nutshell of the story and the product. Ilyush, is there anything you would like to add?
I think that's a good intro. I mean, because so Alessia, you were the first you had the original idea. So I joined with the technical perspective, but that's a very good intro.
And maybe can you actually explain how you plan to use AI in this project, and yeah, what kind of like the steps of like implementing it? Are there
Yeah,
any
I mean, I'm happy.
difficulties?
Yeah, go, Yush.
Yeah. A good question. So we started as, the problem of routing, like if you go from A to B, is basically solved, right? So there are fast algorithms. It's graph search. So you have the road network, and then you know where you can go, where you cannot go. And then, so what we started doing is like, obviously we started enriching that graph with the data on lighting, with the data on built environment, right? So we don't route people through parks at night, or we try and avoid dilapidated, like abandoned buildings or like industrial zones and, darker areas with more crime as well. So, we've kind of exhausted this like administrative data, so which we got from directly from the councils. We've collected some of it, we've geocoded like a lot of metadata, and then there comes a point where you realize, well, safety is actually a very subjective metric, right? So we've done the objective bits. Okay, so this path is better lit, like it's objectively probably, you will feel more comfortable walking there simply because it is, better lit, and objectively there was X number of crimes that happened in the last 12 months. But a lot of safety is about subjectivity, and so how do you tackle this subjectivity? And that's where we were like, okay, we need to look at the street imagery. So, we need to understand, we need to like try and kind of move towards this like safety perception. Like, do I feel safe here? Do I feel like I'm going to be mugged? Because a lot of this perception then actually translates into like the actual true sort of safety, because the way you behave, the way you're seen as like walking in public also determines like whether you're going to be mugged, or whether something bad is going to happen to you. But if you're walking confidently, if you know your destination, if you're not confused about like your surroundings, if you can see like a clear, like like if the street is visible like from all angles, and like there are no sketchy corners. So all of these components, and like as we were sort of going through literature as well, of like, so what is a safe street, right? So it's a very, very complex topic, and so obviously this is where we have to use computer vision. And so not just computer vision in traditional sense, like we can't we could identify like this is like a street lights. Okay, we can add it to our collection, but we already have like millions of them. So like we have like the administrative data that like is basically as perfect as you can get it. But it's the safety, it's the feel that we were trying to capture. So this led us to our like first kind of exploratory project of using CLIP, which is the vision language model, to look at the image embeddings of street imagery. So we had like a piloted like area in different areas of London. We had like several streets that we were trying to assess. So you have the text embeddings as well, which are supposed to map into the same embedding space, basically. So you're calculating vectors for the image and for the text that you're trying to express. For instance, I feel safe, I feel calm, relaxed, this is a clean street, etc., etc. And so we ran this experiment. So we had a student working with us from King's College London. And so she helps us with doing the actual coding. So we realized that yes, there is a lot of potential. So you can run it quickly. You can so it does match. So the data that we, again, as a pilot project, so we've manually labeled the data, like the three of us. We've also realized like that labeling that data, like actually like we disagree on certain things, like me being like a guy, maybe like I grew up and like I live in a certain neighborhood, like I'm more used to, for example, people loitering somewhere, but like the machine, like the clip picks up the like crowded like a crowd of people, and like it's unclear whether they're loitering there or whether they're just like having a block party and having fun. So that's where, the subtleties are like, okay, like, are there like children in there? Like, is it like a family? Does it look like a gang of teenagers or something like that? So that was the first project where it was so promising. We're like, okay, so we've done the sort of the administrative data, we've done the traditional stuff. Let's move on to doing that, tackling that subjectivity properly.
And sort of, can you share like what are sort of the challenges you faced while trying to I guess, approach this in a new way? I'm sure it's not as straightforward as using public data.
Yeah, well, no, it's actually, yeah. So there is no public, as in, there, like the governments, like the councils, they don't label images, unfortunately, like we wish they did. But so the big challenge is data, really. So that's like I think that generally, like the problem of AI is like the good high quality data. So we're dealing with multimodal data here, obviously. So we're looking at images, like street images. So we use the platform called Mapillary, which is now a part of Meta, former Facebook, and anyone can upload the imagery there, and it's free for use for anyone. So you can remove it whenever you want to, but like once you upload it, like it's public and anyone can use it.
Oh,
So,
Ilyush, maybe can you explain just a little, because I think it's a very interesting bit why we went with Multiplicity over, for example, Google Street View and Google Street View restrictions for R&D.
Yeah, so Google Street View unfortunately has very, very severe limitations. Like you can't even take like a screenshot and put it in a report. So like people still use it for, research, but that's unfortunately, well, coming from the academic background, I'm quite strict in so what I can do and how I attribute the data. But I mean, I guess, yeah, for some maybe teams and like that they can download a lot of the stuff like through API, like for the Google Street View, which is wonderful because it's a lot more consistent, the coverage, so they have fewer contributors there. And the general, like the coverage is almost full, but unfortunately the licensing restrictions mean we can't just scrape it. So we're not ChatGPT or OpenAI or Anthropic that we just download everything and everywhere. So we had to go with something open source. So we did go with Mapillary, and the problem when you deal with crowdsourced data is it's varied quality. Some people take pictures during the various funny hours, like not during daylight. Sometimes people upload stuff like taken from the train. So imagine like the side, like you're just on the train, like you're sitting by the window, and then you're recording everything that is on your like right or on your left. So that's not kind of like the wide range of different like types of imagery. So that was probably the biggest challenge. So we had to be very strategic in like which areas of London we can run our pilots. And obviously there exist data sets that label street view imagery as sort of safe or not safe, or like the pleasantness or attractiveness of the frame, but they are fragmented. They are not in London, so that's another challenge of how do we label it, but also in a way that it reflects diverse viewpoints, right? So again, like we need input from women, we need input from children or like the elderly, or we need so even. But even then, when you're having this diverse crowd, so what we've realized, well, when Alesja was conducting research and interviews with women, you found out that even the same cohorts of seemingly the same demographic of women, for instance, some would say, well, we would never take the tube at night because we feel unsafe, there is nowhere to escape. Others would say we always prefer the tube to the bus because the bus is creepy and I don't trust whatever the driver, even though like objectively the bus is a lot easier to get off, like you can just like the driver is right there, like good luck getting the driver's attention on the tube. So it's like the sort of like, again, like the perception of safety is so all over the place that it's I think the biggest challenge is to capture this wide variety of viewpoints into something that is probably like a massive data set. This is what we're trying to do next, like now in our bigger attempt to tackle this.
Obviously,
I'm sorry. Yeah, go for it.
I want to say that obviously right now we already have our safety algorithm working, but like we hope that the perception of safety will become another additional component of the objective safety, and that's where the AI and also like a crowdsourcing will come into place. So, for example, We had a very interesting case lately where we discussed with our partners from Northern Ireland volunteer organization. There are some specific routes they actually don't recommend us to even suggest to people to take, not necessarily because they are objectively unsafe. There is not much crime data, at least crime reports coming from the specific routes, but they not feel comfortable. They might be a bit creepy. They have a lot local knowledge and understanding of what is recommended and what is not. And we were thinking, okay, so we have the specific paths that are not recommended. How can we now make sure that we don't actually suggest them in our routing algorithm? So I think when we see evolution of our algorithm will be the perception of safety using the AI and imagery analysis plus crowdsourced information and plus objective data that we already collected from officials in the government. I think that's what we're gonna be going with.
And I was kind of like curious as well. Are you thinking in the future, maybe there is a possibility to unite it with the like help spare room or booking.com or some rental places? They're just like, because if you know the safest places and you have additional crowdsourced data, you can actually collaborate with them and figure out like, oh, it's not only like safe to live, it's not safe to walk. And so yeah, what's the plan for the future for that?
For the safe spaces.
Yeah, I mean, just like, for example, if you're looking for a new space and you're moving to a different borough, and you think it's just like, oh, it looks great, but it's actually not really safe, and it's just like, but because you already have so much information compared to some other boroughs. I know there are some maps, like they're showing like the crime rate, but
like
but
crime maps,
I don't think they're very updated. Yeah.
I think we
maybe
have
like
friends who already solved it.
the crime yeah, so the two things, I guess. Yeah, so one is so as Alesja was saying, like the local knowledge and like this crowdsourced kind of like wisdom is very important, especially on very like sensitive and subjective topics like safety. So that's something we're definitely pushing, and like hopefully with wider adoption of our app, more people will use it. So we are hoping to start collecting the sort of, like there is a button, it geolocates you and just say, I feel unsafe here, like completely anonymous. Like it's basically like sends a location, and then we were able to estimate this a lot more than we can now in terms of like from the subjective angle. But then another, so as you, Anna, say, like so sort of the B2B kind of stuff, like what we view as like we understand that we have collected a lot of data, so we would probably have the most comprehensive data set on like a lot of the urban sort of features in the UK, including street lighting, and we are hoping to make that sort of as a product, as an offer for developers, for urban planners, and anyone who is people as well. So we have for instance released our London lighting map, which is quite proved to be quite popular. So if you go on safestway.co.uk, you'll see the link for the London Lights map, and that's where like we're trying to visualize kind of like the lighter and the darker streets. But yeah, so anything to do with safety as well. So there is a great product actually called, is it the crime map?
Yeah,
crime map. Yeah, so highly recommended if anyone is looking to kind of explore their neighborhood. So they do aggregate a lot of the crimes, but again, it's just the crime, which is like just one of the many indicators that we're looking at when we deal with safety.
If you want to purchase a property and you actually also looking for the data insights on the location where you're looking, I mean, we have a friend from Geovation who developed a absolutely fantastic platform, Crystal Roof. So like for this specific purpose that Joanna mentioned, if you're looking into buying something, I think they solved it very, very well. So you go and check it out. Definitely. So, but for if you need to walk somewhere, that probably safest way is better.
Yeah.
I'm also curious if you're sort of leveraging so right now you're crowdsourcing a lot of this data to get the metric of safety, but are you also kind of leveraging sort of the LLM's ability to interpret some of these images as part of your metric.
So not as in VLMs, yes. So like the CLIP model that was developed by OpenAI, I think is quite a powerful one, even though like, you know, in the sort of in the world of AI, like I think it's like 3 or 4 years old, but it still proves to be quite like easy to like fine tune, and like a very good, even like zero shot inference, like very good results. You can just use it straight away. So we do basically the only way to understand an image is basically through powerful, you know, transformer based vision models, as well as so something we're talking about is you know, so as I said repeatedly already in the last 10-15 minutes, perception of safety is very subjective, right? So like what works for you may not work for someone else. So I think in the future, like the goal that we're trying to kind of get to is not the one size fits all, but it's you know, you're talking basically to the app. You're saying, well, I'm this and this, and this is what I like, and this is what I don't like. I don't like maybe the water because I had you know, some kind of experience from the childhood that means canals terrify me. Maybe I do like crowded streets and I don't like quiet streets. So for me, like being surrounded by people means a lot of more safety. So in terms of like these intricacies, like this is where it's hard to use traditional methods of like, okay, so what are the things, you know, like if you're thinking about traditional natural language processing, NLP, like you would extract some features. Okay, so they mention positive for like water, or negative for water, negative for canals, maybe positive for crowds, and then they will use some object detection in images. Again, the traditional way of doing computer vision is, you know, you look at the image, and then you try and like draw bounding boxes around, let's say, like the group of people, or like a canal or some body of water. And then you try and algorithmically predict, okay, if there is a canal, then assign like a heavy like weight or penalty to this part of the routes in order to avoid going there. But as it kind of the models, like, you know, the multimodal transformer based models are they're quite powerful. They don't need this explicit sort of rule based kind of like, these are the features and this is what we want. It's more about the feels, and it's more about the vibes, right? So you can actually match very, very fuzzy like text that has some kind of intent with very fuzzy images that like they're very complex. Yeah, so that's something that I would say were impossible to do maybe 3-4 years ago, but it is possible to do now. And we're happy to be in this space, and we're happy to be pushing it. But as I said, the data, really like the capturing that and like trying to combine whatever data sets already exist when it comes to safety, but then like getting more of that data and then making it applicable for the London context, which is our primary market, because we both live here, we know it, and there's a lot of we collected a lot of data for London. We have expanded to the UK, but like London context is obviously quite specific and, let's say, different from that of like Helsinki. So.
And maybe because you startup who's using AI, do you have any advice to those who are trying to start using AI, or just like in their product or services?
Yeah, so I'd say just identify the problem, right? So like don't, like, AI is not like this panacea. It's not gonna cure all your problems of your company, or like it's not gonna make you 100 times more efficient. I mean, it might, but I guess like if you're strategic about the problem you're trying to solve, identify that and find this very particular solution. So a lot of the stuff as well, like so in research as well, so there is so much stuff going, you know, coming out, because I think the speed to produce something has drastically decreased in terms of, you know, you can experiment, you can iterate, you can do stuff a lot faster. And just iterate, just, you know, get something, see how it performs, compare it with the human benchmark, sort of like how you used it before AI or like using traditional methods. But remember that a lot of the times, like tradition. So for example, working with geospatial or working with routing, like LLMs cannot do that. If you tell an LLM, I want to come from my home to my nearby Tesco, it will be completely confused. It will understand what a Tesco is. It might know where your home is because you told it a while ago, but then it's a very, very poor at like complex spatial reasoning. Yes, it can, deduce that Tesco's to the north of your house or to the south, or it can know that the area around a particular Tesco is maybe bad. But it's so traditional tools like the GIS toolkit, like a lot of the stuff is very well made there. And so the LLM should really, or like any kind of whatever AI chatbot, whatever you use, a lot of the times it's just an interface to like feed the data into whatever already works. So I think in that sense, don't think an LLM will solve all your problems. I guess that would be probably like the pitfall I'd recommend avoiding first.
To pick your problem you're passionate about, and then you'll find the right AI tool to help you solve it, not the other way around.
Yeah, that's for sure. And maybe we probably should move to your hopes and predictions for the future of AI in your project, if you can share any.
I'll just do like one sentence like here, and then I'll also hand it over to Ilya. I think I really like when Ilya speaks about the future and how like AI will be able to hyper personalize something specifically for you. So for me, I would hope that eventually, with safest way and in general of the solving the problem of routing, that the AI will be able to understand me deep enough to suggest something specifically for me. Like for example, it will know I do not like loud motorways or streets with a lot of cars, so it will route me through. It will know that I look specific type of architecture, so it will route me through the specific type of architecture. It will know that I like the smell of specific bushes, and it will be able to detect whether there are a lot of them and route me through this specific street. So it's just like this hyper personalization and deep understanding. So this like AI empathy of understanding who I am, who the person is, how to make their life more, I don't know, safer and a little bit more pleasant as well. So that's where I would see us kind of going towards.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Yeah, so hyper personalization is something. I mean, it sounds slightly dystopian, maybe slightly like Black Mirror-y, but it is something that we explore a lot. Which I do think this is going to be the future because we already have this with like our news feeds and like social media replacing newspapers, like for better or worse, mostly for worse. But I think when it comes to navigation and like truly like the preferences, I think navigation is definitely overlooked in terms of like people think it's solved, like because it can get you from A to B quickly, but that's not that really there is so much more we can do. And in terms of so in terms of like safest way, what we're excited about is building a safety foundation model or like a pseudo foundation model. So what foundation models are basically this like big models, you train them on a lot of data. It doesn't it can be text, it can be, well, it will have to be street view imagery, it'll have to be the built environment, like the descriptions of places like social media feeds, crime, etc., but with the goal that we can use this model for navigation and all other things. We can maybe predict crime. We can understand whether it's livable or not. We can, well, I mean, all places are livable, like how livable, sort of like how pleasant it is to be there. And do all other things that we're kind of like not even, we don't even know what, but sort of building and fusing all of the features that are objectively and subjectively related to safety into this one model that can then be fine-tuned for a lot more specific and smaller tasks. So this is our personal kind of goal and dream for the next for the foreseeable future. Sort of like safety first, kind of like urban safety model that you can apply in different contexts. In terms of the general, I think, trend, and again, as a researcher, what I see is there is a lot of so obviously there is a lot of hype, like AGI and like the general intelligence, blah blah blah. So I personally don't see it coming anytime soon. And the push sort of, okay, so agentic is one thing, the buzzword that you hear a lot, which is like, funnily enough, I don't think there is anything particularly new, right? So we use systems with different agents. Before, like, it just wasn't called agentic AI, it was called like a multi-agent systems, and we've had them for decades. So there is a lot of demand for explainability and like trust, and like you need to like sort of counter the hallucinations and counter the fact that it works well 9 out of 10, but you really need those, like for a lot of the critical industries, you need to work 100% of the time correct. So this determinism, and like this is something that traditional like computing gave you, and this is something that LLMs are a lot harder to get. So maybe the shift towards smaller and very task-specific models that are able to maybe solve one tool, but solve it really well. I think that's what we'll probably be seeing in the years to come as like the industry adopts AI, sort of doing the privacy as well as another thing. So a lot of the like the banks won't plug into ChatGPT and just feed it the client data, or I hope they won't. So they will, I think for a lot of the tasks that they do, like, fraud detection, for instance, it'll be smaller models, but that are very good at a particular thing, getting a particular set of inputs and like trying to map it to the correct outcome better than the humans can. So that's my view.
Cool. And I think we're just about at time. So I'd like to leave maybe the last minute for both of you to sort of like, if people have any questions, if they want to find out more about the safest way, where can they find you guys? Where are you sort of posting, and how can they reach out?
Yeah, so if you just go Safest Way Co UK or reach for Safest Way, look for Safest Way on the App Store, Play Store. We are live in London, or we are live in Northern Ireland, so we're covering whole Northern Ireland together with our partners from Inner City Assistance Team, the voluntarily group. So yeah, just go to our website, check on our App Store, Play Store, download, try, give us feedback. Feedback at this early stage is one of the most important things for us. So please do reach out. Please let us know what you think. Please let us know if something was there that made you feel unsafe, so we can also fine tune our algorithm to accommodate that. So that would be great.
Thank you. We're sure we will include the links into the description so people can actually just click and just go straight to the App Store or the website. But yeah, it was a pleasure to have you here finally. Just like, and hopefully, yeah, just like we'll see more kind of interesting bits and paths that are just, that, as you said, more personalized, and you will add, apart from like safety, there are multiple bits that you just like actually explore on the way.
Thank you, Anna. Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Ilya.
Thank you for having us. Thanks, Anna and Brian. Yeah.
Pleasure.
And thanks for joining us, and for all listeners, thanks for listening up to this point, and have a great day.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.